What kind of man rides past a dying woman, and what kind of man stops? That was the question hanging in the hot New Mexico air when 5 cowboys spotted her walking out from the scrub with blood soaking her torn dress. The land burned under the August sun. Sagebrush stood still in the heat, and dust clung to the wind like smoke. The woman stumbled into view with her hand pressed tight to her side. Blood ran between her fingers. Her hair hung in tangled curls, her feet bare and cut from the hard ground. She did not call out for help. She just kept moving, one slow step after another, like something deep inside her refused to let her fall. The riders slowed. One muttered in shock. None moved to help. Except Samuel Carver. Samuel was 29, tall and lean, with strong hands and a face carved by sun and hard work. He did not stop to think. He swung down from his horse and walked fast toward her. His boots kicked dust with every step. He saw her legs buckle and reached her just in time. He caught her before she hit the ground. "Hey," he said softly as he held her up. "Stay with me." Quote. Her eyes fluttered open. Her lips cracked when she spoke. "Water." Samuel pulled his canteen from his belt and held it to her mouth. She drank in small shaking sips, gripping his wrist with what strength she had left. "What's your name?" he asked. "Clara," she whispered. "Clara. Boone. Married name." Not anymore. Samuel looked over his shoulder at the cowboys behind him. One had already turned his horse away, riding off rather than getting involved. The others hesitated, but stayed back. Samuel turned back to Clara. "You've been shot." She nodded weakly. "I need to get you to shade." He lifted her carefully into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. Her breath hitched from the pain, but she did not fight him. The sun beat down on them as he carried her toward a patch of cottonwoods near a narrow stream. His horse trailed behind without needing a pull. He laid her on the cool bank and dipped his kerchief into the stream. He pressed it gently against the wound. The bullet had passed through, but the cut was deep and messy. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. "3 men, she breathed. "Took the wagon, left me for dead." Samuel's jaw tightened. He cleaned the wound as best he could, packing it with damp cloth and binding it tight. "You need a doctor," he said. "Closest one is days away." Her eyes closed. She was slipping under. Samuel stayed all night beside her. He held her steady when she shook with fever and kept her lips wet with water. She whispered in her sleep, calling names he did not know. Near dawn, she gripped his hand tight and cried out a name that stopped him cold. "Thomas." "Who's Thomas?" he asked softly. "My boy," she gasped. "He's 5, they took him." Tears slipped from her eyes. "And my girl, Ruth, she's 7. I hid them in the brush when the men came. I don't know if they are alive." Samuel felt something break inside him. "Your children?" he asked. She nodded faintly. "You will find them," he said. "I swear it." Something passed between them. Not trust, but the beginning of it. By morning, Clara could sit up a little. Samuel made coffee over a small fire. He tore strips from his own shirt to bind her tighter. He coaxed her to eat a few berries he found near the water. By afternoon, they set out. Samuel made a sling from his saddle blanket to hold her steady on his horse. She leaned against him, too weak to ride alone. "You don't have to do this," she murmured. "I know," he said, "but I couldn't ride away." They reached a small ranch house by dusk. Samuel's old friend Dolores lived there. She took Clara in without question. She cleaned her wound, fed her broth, and settled her into a bed. Samuel sat by the window with his rifle across his knees, keeping watch. Late that night, Clara stirred. Her voice was soft. "I remember you," she said. "You came through my town once with cattle. You bought peaches from me." Samuel blinked in surprise. Then he smiled. "I remember. You should have told me." "I was married then," she said. There was no warmth in her voice. "He died last year. Fever." "I'm sorry," Samuel said. "I'm not." Her voice shook. He was not a kind man. Samuel moved closer. You don't have to talk about it. Quote, I want to, she whispered, and she told him just enough for him to understand the quiet pain she carried. When she finished, he said one thing. We'll find your children. Clara looked at him, eyes shining. Why do you care? Quote, Samuel held her gaze steady. Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. For the first time, she reached out and placed her hand over his. He closed his fingers around hers. Neither let go. The bond between them began in that moment. Strong, quiet, unspoken. But the danger waiting on the trail ahead was far from over. Clara woke to a gray dawn spreading over the hills. Her fever had eased, though her side still ached where bandages lay tight beneath her blouse. Samuel was already outside saddling horses, the quiet rhythm of leather and metal steady in the morning stillness. Dolores handed Clara a cup of warm broth and whispered a prayer under her breath. When Clara stepped onto the porch wrapped in a faded quilt, Samuel looked up. His face was tired but determined. I spoke to someone in town, he said. A man named Caleb Dyer. He hears things most folks don't. Clara's breath caught. About my children? Samuel nodded. A wagon passed through Santa Rosa 3 days ago. 2 children with it. Boy had a limp. Girl wore a locket. Clara's hands trembled as she gripped the quilt. That's them. Did he say who had them? Quote, a man named Pike Holloway, Samuel said. He's trouble. Owes money everywhere. Looks like he bought your wagon and your children along with it. Clara stared at the horizon, jaw tight with fear and fury. I should be the one riding after them. You're not healed, Samuel said calmly. I don't care. He stepped closer, voice steady as stone. If you ride now, that wound will tear open. If you fall from that saddle, I can't pick you up again. Not this time. And your children need their mother alive. The anger in her eyes softened into something heavy and painful. After a long moment, she looked down. Samuel respected her silence. I know someone in Winslow, he said, works with express riders. He'll know Holloway's trail. Clara studied him. Her voice was quiet. Why are you doing this? Truly. Samuel looked past her for a moment, as if searching old memories. My father went out once to settle a debt. Never came back. My mother waited by the road every evening, hoping for someone who wasn't coming. I won't see someone else go through that. Not if I can stop it. Clara stepped closer. I didn't expect kindness. Not after all I've lived. I'm not doing it out of kindness, Samuel said softly. Then why? He met her eyes. Because someone should have helped my mother, and someone should help you. Dolores called from the doorway, telling Samuel his horse was ready. He nodded, then turned back to Clara. I'll be back by dusk. You always give orders to women? She asked, lifting an eyebrow. Samuel shrugged lightly. Only the ones who scare me. For the first time, Clara's mouth curved into the smallest smile. Samuel rode hard that day. When he returned at dusk, dust thick on his hat and shoulders, he carried a folded scrap of paper. Clara was waiting on the porch. They crossed the Verde River 2 days ago, he said, headed east, toward the Malin Rim. Holloway's got 2 men with him. Clara's voice was steady but tight. Then we leave tomorrow. Samuel didn't argue. He only said, we'll need supplies. They rode out before sunrise. The land stretched wide and open, the sky pale as bleached bone. Clara rode slower, favoring her left side, but she did not complain. Samuel noticed every wince, every tight breath, but he let her hold her own. By midday, they reached a shallow stream. Clara splashed water on her face while Samuel opened a tin. Dolores gave me this, he said. Keeps the skin from splitting. She stood still as he lifted the edge of her blouse and spread the salve gently across the bandage. His hands were rough, but careful. She held her breath, not from pain, but from the quiet closeness between them. You always know what to bring, she murmured. I've had practice, he replied. Took a musket ball through the thigh once, had to stitch myself with a bone needle. She looked up sharply. You stitched yourself? Didn't have anyone else. he said simply. By late afternoon, they found wagon tracks leading through a cedar gully. Samuel crouched and touched the soil. "Fresh," he said. "Less than a day." Clara's hand flew to her mouth as she spotted a scrap of pink fabric caught on a thorn bush. She pulled it free with trembling fingers. "It's Ruth's," she whispered. "Her dress tore last spring. I patched it myself." Samuel touched the cloth gently. "They're close. If we push tomorrow, we can catch them." That night, the sky opened vast above them. Their campfire burned low, lighting Clara's face in soft gold. She stared into the flames, voice steady but full. "They're out there," she said. "My babies, sleeping in the cold." Samuel leaned back against a stone. "Tomorrow we get them." She turned her face toward him. "I'm scared." "So am I," he admitted. She looked surprised. "But fear won't stop us," Samuel added. "Not this time." The fire crackled. Wind moved through the sage. Clara finally lay down beside him, not touching, but close. Close enough to feel the warmth of him. Close enough to feel something shift inside her, like a door she had held shut for years creaking open again. Before dawn, they broke camp. The day felt heavy with purpose. Hours later, Samuel reined in sharply. Across the ravine sat the wagon, one wheel braced with a branch, smoke rising from a small fire. Clara's breath caught so hard she could not speak. Samuel scanned the clearing. "One by the fire with a knife," he said. "Another pacing by the horses. Third, behind the wagon." Clara's voice broke. "The children." "They're behind the wagon," Samuel said. "I can see movement under the canvas." Her hand shook around her reins. Samuel dismounted and tied his horse to a scrub pine. "You stay here," he said. "I won't," she whispered fiercely. "They're my children." He didn't argue. He handed her a small pistol. "You ever shoot?" "My brother taught me when I was 15. Aim low, shoot twice." Samuel nodded with approval. They moved downwind, slipping through rocks and brush. The clearing came into full view. Samuel's breath steadied. Clara's heart pounded like thunder. "This is it," he whispered. Then Samuel stepped out into the open. He walked straight toward Holloway. The moment Clara saw the red cloth tied to the mesquite branch, she knew the signal had come. She ran. She ran without looking back. The next heartbeat would change everything. Clara ran as soon as she saw the strip of red cloth tied to the mesquite branch. Her legs burned, her breath tore through her chest, and every step sent a hot sting through her healing wound. But she did not stop. Her children were only yards away, close enough that she could almost hear their small breaths through the canvas. Samuel drew Holloway out with calm words, but the moment Samuel said he was there for the children, the whole clearing exploded into motion. Holloway grabbed for his gun. Samuel was faster. He swung the butt of his rifle hard, knocking Holloway to the ground before the man could fire. The other two rushed him. Samuel fired once, grazing one man's shoulder. The second man spun around, trying to run straight into the trees. He didn't get far. Clara stepped out from the rocks, her small pistol raised. She hit the man hard with the grip, knocking him to his knees. Samuel took down the last one with a swift kick that sent him sprawling. Then everything went still. Clara dropped the pistol and ran to the wagon. She tore back the canvas with shaking hands. There they were, two small faces, two pairs of frightened eyes. "Ruth!" Clara cried, falling to her knees. "Thomas!" The little girl let out a sound that cracked the air wide open. She threw herself into her mother's arms, sobbing. Thomas crawled straight into Clara's lap, clinging to her with everything in him. Clara held them both, kissing their hair, their cheeks, any part she could reach, her tears wetting their dusty faces. Samuel stood a few steps behind, his rifle lowered, watching the reunion with quiet relief. He had seen many things on the trail, but nothing like the way Clara held her children now. It felt sacred. Ruth turned her head toward him. "Are you the cowboy who found Mama?" Samuel nodded slightly. "Just lucky I crossed her path." Thomas sniffled. "Are you taking us home?" Quote. Clara pressed her forehead to her son's. "No, sweetheart, we are not going back. We're going forward." They tied Holloway and his men to the wagon wheel. Samuel left food and water near enough that they would survive, but not enough for them to break free before someone found them. Then he and Clara gathered what supplies they could, burned the broken lean-to, and prepared to leave. The children rode with their mother, both holding her tightly, refusing to let go even for a moment. The horses moved slower under the extra weight, but Samuel never hurried them. He rode beside them, scanning the horizon. When they reached the Verde River that night, the sky glowed with the last colors of sunset. Clara sat near the fire with her children curled against her. Samuel settled a few feet away, rubbing down the horses. "Samuel," Clara said quietly. He turned toward her. "They remembered me," she whispered. "I was so afraid they wouldn't." "They never stopped being yours," he said. She looked at him for a long moment, her face soft in the firelight. "I don't know where to go now." "You don't have to know tonight," he replied. She glanced at her children, sleeping with their small hands against her. "I can't take them back to what we had." "You don't have to," Samuel said. His voice was gentle but sure. Clara looked uncertain. "I have nothing else." "You have me," Samuel said simply, "if you want." She stared at him like she wasn't sure she heard right. When she didn't speak, he added softly, "I mean it." Clara leaned into his shoulder, just slightly, just enough. He didn't move away. For the first time in a long time, Clara believed she was safe. They reached Pine Hollow by late afternoon the next day. It was a quiet town, with clapboard stores along a dusty road and a church bell that looked like it had not rung in months. Clara led her children to a small house on the edge of town. She knocked, unsure if she even had the right to. A woman with gray-streaked hair answered. "Martha," Clara said softly. The woman stared, stunned. Then she opened her arms wide. "You come inside," Martha said. "All of you," quote. Martha gave them warm cornbread, a place to sleep, and work Clara could do. Clara baked bread, mended shirts, and slowly learned to trust the quiet again. Samuel found ranch work nearby, returning each night dusty but smiling, carrying eggs or tools or small wooden toys he whittled for Thomas. Weeks passed. Ruth laughed more. Thomas limped less. Clara stood behind the store counter again, her hands steady. She didn't flinch at people's looks. She didn't bow her head. One night, after the children had fallen asleep on their quilts, Clara sat beside Samuel on the porch. The lantern glowed between them. She looked at him with something new in her eyes. "Do you miss the trail?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said, "but not the way I thought I would." "What changed?" He looked right at her. "You did." Clara's breath trembled. She reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "I want to marry you," she said quietly. Samuel blinked. "Clara, are you sure?" Quote, "I lived a life where I never got to choose what I was worth," she said. "Now I want to choose, and I choose this. I choose you. I choose us." Samuel took her face gently in his hands. "Then I'm yours." The wedding was small. A preacher from the next town. A ribbon in Clara's hair. Ruth tossing wildflowers in the air. Thomas clutching Samuel's coat like he belonged there all along. They married beneath an old oak tree. No crowd. No music. Just the wind moving through the branches and two hands holding on like they would never let go. And they didn't. Life wasn't rich or fancy. But it was full. It was steady. It was safe. Clara ran the store. Samuel worked the land behind their home. The children grew strong and happy. Evenings on the porch, swing became their favorite place, with Clara's head resting on Samuel's shoulder and Samuel kissing her temple as the crickets sang. It wasn't a loud life. It wasn't a perfect life. But it was theirs. And it was home.